Welcome to Getting Aligned, a human design podcast where we dive into the endless journey of self-discovery using human design. This podcast is created for individuals who want to know how human design can assist them on the road towards self-awareness, healing, and personal growth by uncovering the unique blueprint that shapes each of us. From practical insights to profound revelations, Getting Aligned will be your companion on this transformative journey as we collectively step into our purpose. Whether you're new to human design or a seasoned explorer, there's something here for everyone. So, grab your favorite beverage, settle into something comfortable, and let's embark on this adventurous journey of self-discovery together. It's time that we all rediscover who we were born to be. Welcome back, folks, to another episode. We're going to finish where we started, discussing the foundations of human design. In the last two episodes, I talked a little bit about my story and my need to understand myself and why I think human design can help us in our career, our relationship with others, and ultimately our relationship with ourselves. I also discussed a little bit about the science that influences the system and the role of neutrinos. And so let's finish what we started. So human design is, again, a fairly new system that helps us with self-awareness. It helps us to make sense of the challenges that we are experiencing, I think, individually and collectively as a society. Human design does a lot of explaining as to how we've evolved in tracking our human evolution from 9-centered, mind-directed beings to 9-centered, inner-directed beings. This may usually, if you've seen the chakra system or any photo of the chakra system, you'll see 7 centers. And human design says that in 1781, we actually experienced an evolution where we moved from those 7 centers to 9 centers. The challenge that I think we all continue to experience is this belief that our mind is in control. Again, as someone who understands and studies trauma, I completely agree. I think we allow our minds to believe that it's running the show, and I think it couldn't be further from the truth, when in fact our minds are here to simply interpret and make sense of our experiences. In human design, they talk about 2 crystals of consciousness: the personality crystal, or the conscious stream of thought, and the design crystal, or the unconscious stream. Visually, the personality crystal sits in the head center at the top of our scalp. This is the version of us that thinks it's in charge, but in human design is simply known as the passenger. The design crystal, which sits in the ajna center, this represents the physicality of the body. This is the vehicle as human design would describe it. And so if the personality crystal thinks it's driving, but is actually the passenger, and the design crystal is the vehicle itself, then what's driving? Well, that would be what's described as the magnetic monopole. This is located in the sternum area of the body, or the G center. Our magnetic monopole has 2 specific functions. It helps to hold together the 2 parts of us that actually believe that they're separate. Basically, it's holding together the personality and the design crystals. The second function of the magnetic monopole is that it acts as a navigation system that guides us towards our life's path. As some of us would call it, our destiny. Let's recap one more time. The design is the vehicle, the magnetic monopole is the true driver, and the personality is actually the passenger, being the backseat driver thinking it's running the show when in fact it's not. So in order to engage in the human design experiment, the tools that we need are to help the passenger understand its true role. This reminds me a little bit of internal family systems work or parts work in the mental health field, where there's different parts of us that have a specific job, and that at some point or another, we need to assign new roles to said parts. Human design says, well, understanding your type, your strategy, and your authority actually help ease the parts of us that think that it's in control. So I am, again, fascinated by this in ways of understanding mental health as well in trauma. There's something about mental health and trauma that I actually really want to figure out my niche in terms of human design from those lenses. So again, a couple of things that happened in 1781. So recapping, according to The Voice, we evolved from those 7-centered mind-directed beings to the 9-centered inner-directed beings. In the same year, the planet Uranus was discovered and we moved into the Uranian Era. All of these transitions that occurred are set to help us as we hit a new evolution in 2027. So I think knowing that we're going into the age of Aquarius, I'm really puzzled about the state of the world. There's a lot that needs to change and needs to shift. And I hope that, this evolution in consciousness really does help us to align with our purpose. And for me, if you're hearing this and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Honestly, the background to human design was like noise to me for a while. And I was like puzzled and I was overwhelmed as well, but mostly just like, I'm a skeptical person. So I was like, what are you talking about? This guy's like hearing what? Like, okay. But when the neutrino system was confirmed to be real, and then actually the magnetic monopole and this belief that there is sort of this north and south pole, that was also confirmed. I was like, maybe there's a little bit of truth to this. And so I still keep human design open to, like, I still keep it open. I'm still open and skeptical. And I think two things can coexist at the same time. But yeah, I think in terms of just continuing to evolve, I mean, again, we've done this evolutionary game before, or this, we've evolved before. Again, we've operated and went from this purely instinctual, survivalistic individuals to being more mentally aware. And so I think it's natural that we just continue to evolve into ourselves. So let's move into the Bodygraph. So if you go to mybodygraph.com and you, again, plug in your birth date information, birth time, and location, you're going to be able to pull up your Bodygraph. Before I go there, let me go backwards and just say the importance of, again, having that correct information is because that the exact time of your birth is what's recorded as your personality. And the second, which is about 3 months prior to your birth, the information that's calculated in that regard helps us to record your design information and understanding your design data. So before I moved on, I wanted to make sure I covered that. So again, going to mybodygraph.com, pulling up this information, you're going to see a lot of complicated or complex information. I think it overwhelms everyone, including myself. But what you're going to see you're going to see 9 shapes that are triangular. They're either vertical, horizontal, or upside down. And you're going to see some squares. Those represent the 9 energy centers. Next, you're going to see off of each of those energy centers, or off of those centers, are lines or gates. There are a total of 64 gates in a Bodygraph. This is similar to the 64 hexagrams from the Chinese I Ching, or the 64 codons of the human DNA strand. So single gates are how energy enters and exits a channel. Gates are open to being connected to the other end of the pathway. Channels are formed when you have 2 gates completing one another, creating a circuit. Channels are also formed if you have one gate that is defined and you meet another person who has the other end of the gate defined. Human design says this explains the experience of sparks flying. It's you finding someone that energetically completes channels with us. Channels connect to different energy centers. And for me, that was like, bam, that explains why, as someone that has a lot less definition in my chart, other people tend to light me up. because they have a lot more energy flowing through their chart than I may have. So yeah. So if we take a step back from the body graph, you're going to see a column on the right that's black, and you're going to see a column on the left that is red. What is black represents the personality side of you. So again, going back to that personality crystal, all that data, all of that comes from the exact time of your birth. And then the red is the design side of you, the design crystal. This is unconscious part of you. This is what is inherently, what is believed to be inherited from our family members, mom, dad, grandparents. This is the formed approximately 3 months prior to your birth. So that is when the design side is lit up by the neutrino system. So the concept of the 64 gates and the 36 channels comes from the fourth component of human design, which is the Kabbalah tree of life. And so that's where I Ching, Kabbalah, how astrology, again, how these different various ancient sciences form and bleed into or lend information about the human design system. So just now or a little while ago, I said, defined and colored and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about the concept of defined and undefined. Definition, defined is basically definition, right? So things that are colored in, the gates, the channels, the centers, those are defined. That means this is fixed, dependable energy that is available to us. It is, again, consistent, reliable, dependable energy available to us throughout our lifetime. What is not defined in our chart is the white space. So that's considered undefined, and it is neither better than the other, like being defined versus undefined. There is nothing in the human design world, there's nothing inherently bad about being defined in certain areas and being undefined in other areas. Wherever it is that you are defined, that is what you're here to teach to others who have those spaces open. And whatever is undefined, that is what you are here to learn from others. And so I still sometimes experience this struggle with having so much undefined space and defined space. Like there are still some times where I have to journal or write out my frustration or bitterness with not having what I perceive is better to have, right? Because I see others doing it. Case in point, even just doing this podcast, still very difficult, still very hard. And there's moments where I want to give up and because I might not be the best at communicating in my mind because I feel like I don't have certain defined traits, like the throat center, right? I perceive it as being inherently bad or makes it difficult. And so there's, again, a lot of conditioning and a lot of conditioned beliefs about when you don't have something, it's bad. And if you want something from someone, we also see that as bad. And it's we're all here to create sparks with each other and to really inspire one another. And so if you're like me and you're looking at things and seeing, oh, I don't have a defined this, so I might not be able to, have this type of a lifestyle or that type of a lifestyle, this type of a career, that type of a career. We're going to cancel that noise together. And we're going to embrace what is defined in us, what is dependable, and then we're just going to be mindful of the areas in our chart where there's openness, because there is, with the more openness you have, the more you are prone to the conditioning. And even then, I was sometimes conditioning is so bad, when in actuality, conditioning is not bad or good. It simply just is. And so if I just wanted to offer that moment of truth for myself and the vulnerability, even saying that, I was I probably don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway, because whatever's open, it's like going to school. I'm like, I struggled in school in so many ways in terms of like sitting down and actually sitting there to learn the information, but I digress. So again, if you believe that what's defined is better than what's undefined, like it's simply not true. Two things can coexist and be equally good at the same time. So I wanted to dispel that. So yeah, I'm glad that I was able to get this extra episode out before the end of the year. So we're going to continue to dive into human design, and I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm just grateful if you have been listening this far, that you've just been rocking out with me. And I look forward to releasing more episodes and just continuing to dive into how human design has changed my life and the people in my life that have been open to my excitement and going with me through the ringer in the human design with the human design framework and experiment. And so again, if you are someone that is interested in diving into your specific chart, stay tuned, or you can get a personal reading. Link will be in the show notes. So I invite you to think about how you want to enter into the new year if you are interested in diving into yourself deeper. And I look forward to connecting with you.